The Modern Era in Forge of Empires. The Modern Era is the 10th age in Forge of Empires and has been added to the game with update 1.17 on January 17, 2014. As already before in previous ages, also in Modern Era, you can fill some technologies with forge points without moving to this age. This way you can invest 244 forge points as a preparation. This reduces at least a bit the time being in this new era without taking advantage of the new technologies, buildings and units. In the technology tree of the Modern Era, you can develop a type of two-lane roads, motorways, which provides happiness. Two-lane roads not only lead to a significant change of the city structure, they also provide much less happiness than the smaller streets. As a result, the enthusiasm of your population is at risk if you replace many small streets with two-lane roads. Also, the new motorways don't make this much better. Starting with the Modern Era, each new era will provide one expansion very early in the technology tree and the second one very late, often as the last technology. As the new buildings are bigger than those of previous ages, you will need more space. Therefore, the two expansions from the technology tree, the two expansions from the province map and the two expansions available for diamonds are needed urgently. You can develop the good productions very early. It still only makes sense to produce those goods related to the resources you find on the province map. But to get access to the other technologies, you have to develop all good productions in the Modern Era. Absolutely new in the Modern Era is the fact that you no longer need coins and supplies only to produce goods. On top, you will need unrefined goods to produce the new refined goods. Examples: concrete plant uses wires to produce ferroconcrete. On the province map, you will not get new resources. Instead, you get one more Bronze Age deposit and one from the Colonial Age. Now, you can produce yourself 3 out of 5 goods of these two ages, in case you cannot trade these goods enough in the market. Especially those players who only could produce paper and coffee in the Colonial Age often have problems to trade these for other goods. Then the new resource, example given pine wood for tar, kaolin clay for porcelain or nickel ore for wires, is very helpful. Beside the required unrefined good, the good productions of the Modern Era need a related resource on the province map. Without it, only 1 instead of 5 goods is produced every 4 hours. This resource is from the province map. Examples: concrete plant needs rock. You already have 2 such resources since the Bronze Age, and you will get a third on the Modern Era province map. You now can produce 3 different goods on your own. This makes absolutely sense, as often the Bronze Age resource does not correspond to the Colonial Age goods that you can produce. With an active market, you will be able to compensate this easily. Otherwise, you will have to produce much more by yourself. Those who own a great building like the Lighthouse of Alexandria or the Royal Albert Hall will notice that both buildings will not produce goods of the Modern Era. Instead, they deliver twice as many unrefined goods, which means goods of the Colonial Age. At the same time, you need many more goods for the technology tree than in previous ages. For all modern era technologies in the technology tree, you need a total of 1440 forge points. This is not much more than before in the progressive era. At least this aspect is not making your life harder. But the number of coins and supplies needed for the technology tree is doubled. Especially with supplies, many players of the modern era have a severe shortage. As a result of the grown requirement for goods, producing them also uses supplies. The new good buildings use so much space in the city that the supply production often gets neglected. The stock shrinks and suddenly the situation becomes critical for the player. Better to pay attention to this in time before it has negative effect on your development. A decent stock of supplies before entering modern era is already one good preparation. The video Modern Problems shows different possibilities how to solve the problem if it occurs. Before taking the step into the modern era, I recommend to check if the goods required for the technology tree are in the inventory to avoid getting stuck halfway. These are goods from the colonial age, the industrial age and the progressive era. As always, these are goods from the 3 previous ages. On top, I highly recommend to have a good stock of goods from the colonial age, as these are needed as unrefined goods when you produce the refined goods of the modern era. I already emphasized this in previous videos of this channel. In the modern era, this is a prerequisite for your ability to produce goods without interruptions. Those who don't have a sufficient stock possibly need to build again good productions of the colonial age. This happens to many players. For your research of technologies in the modern era, many goods from this new era are needed. As you need these goods very early in the technology tree, many players try to trade them at least partially before entering the modern era to speed up development. Usually, trading goods from one age to the next age in a relation of 1 to 2 is named fair trade. As modern era goods require unrefined goods to be produced, it is really fair to ask for twice as many goods of the progressive era. On the other side, I recommend not to pay twice as much for goods of the following postmodern era, as their production is not so much more difficult. This is something that I will explain a bit more in detail in the video for the postmodern era. The 2 great buildings of the modern era are the Space Needle and the Atomium. Both great buildings offer happiness. Obviously, the game designers saw a huge request for happiness in this era, possibly caused by the changing streets. I recommend to think twice before you build one of these great buildings. The required happiness can be provided easily without wasting forge points for it. The second bonus of the Space Needle is coins, and for most players not really important. The second bonus of the Atomium is goods for the guild treasury. This can be realized much better with the Ark, which is a great building of the future era. Either wait for it or use the observatory in the meantime. In the video about the great building Ark, I also explain how to build it before reaching the future era. You should know all these possibilities before you construct a great building of the modern era. The roller derby track is a research that you can ignore, and I recommend to do so. It might sound good to have a cultural building that only requires small streets, but you will make your way very well without it. Skipping it saves 108 forge points, and in case you want to remain in an age, example given the contemporary era, longer and a quest requires you to research your technology, then you still have this one to do so without moving to the next era. There is a quest from Phoenicus in the postmodern era that you cannot complete without this research, but you can cancel it without causing problems. Or you receive this building as a reward, example given from the guild expedition. Then you can build it even without having completed the related research. Griva and Rinbin offer one after another quests which sound very difficult first. First, Griva recommends to collect 200 of each good of the modern era. Afterwards, Rinbin wants you to collect one of each good of all ages from Bronze Age until modern era. The important hint is trading these goods in the market also solves the quest. It is a bit annoying to create 5 trades for each of the ages to satisfy Rinbin, but every guildmate can accept these trades without costs. Then it is completed very fast. Griva offers 25 diamonds and 100 medals. Rinbin has a hidden reward, which is 1 coin and 111 medals. It is your decision if it is worth the time needed to do it. As the tanks are relatively far in the modern era technology tree, fighters will try to do the research as fast as possible to have good prerequisites for the guild expedition. The topic Fighting in the Postmodern Era will receive its own video coming soon.